The PM
Very
says
good,
it should be
but
just the start of a disciplinary
Can
action.
you do it
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good next
fast
step.
mode?
But we need further action, both in terms of the law, but also action within the union.
Police are treating the discovery of a body in a car park on Sydney's northern beaches as
Oh no, I just said no iPhone. I don't know what to think. Oh, good day, Hannah. It's just Michelle Bertram here. I'm ringing about my storage sheds. There'll be a payment made today, so yeah, because I'm coming back on the weekend, next weekend, so yeah, just if, when that goes through, obviously it won't be locked down anymore, will it? Like, I'll be able to get into it again. Yeah, sweet as. Alright, thank you so much for that. Thanks. Okay, thanks. Bye. Yeah, I need for that not to be.
Palace has confirmed the royal couple will visit New South Wales and the ACT in October at the invitation of the federal government. The royal visit will be part of an official trip to the biennial Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which this year is being hosted by Samoa. Delegations from 56 Commonwealth countries will attend the gathering.
See, like, if I knew it was I would have just put, like, you know, like a lump sum on it.
Died of cancer, aged 53. She was
Shannon
best known
Doherty
for
died.
her role as high school student
hell.
Brenda Walsh on the hit 1990s television
Cancer.
drama
Shit.
Beverly Hills
53.
90210.
Same age as me.
Jason Priestley, who played her brother, has called her a force of nature, adding
Did
that
you
he
see
was
they
her.
had the 90210 movie
Also
that came out? I
appeared in
saw that. It was
Supernatural
quite
series
good.
Charmed, with Rose McGowan saying she had the heart of a lion. Final of the men's European football championship in Germany sparked dramatically different reactions.
And put it in there.
Yeah.
You'll forget it.
I won't forget it.
You will forget
No,
it.
because of Mars, you know.
An exciting goal coming very late in the game. Reporter Elinia Chenery says England fans watched the match in the front bar of the Bondi Beach Road Hotel.
Yep, for your
while
dinner
Spanish fans
tonight.
were at the back.
There were some very glum, downcast faces, and pretty much the moment the game wrapped up, that crew sort of started exiting outside.
Where would we go for our
The hotel room.
And singing and cheering.
motel?
To the weather now, scattered showers across the ranges and western slopes. Snow falling on the Alps above 700 metres with blizzards possible. Snow possible on the central tablelands above 800 metres. Isolated showers possible across the rest of the inland and
Okay.
along the southern half of the coast.
Because it wasn't
Dry and
funny.
partly cloudy along the northern half of the coast. Sydney's weather fine at a top of 16 right now. It's 12.
Yeah, buddy,
on the coast,
Drake's what to do
13
with
degrees
that,
in the west.
actually, twice
That's
a
the
week.
latest from ABC News.
Live across New South Wales.
On the ABC
Yeah.
Listen app. On your
Really?
smart speaker.
Play ABC Radio. And on your local ABC station.
From your street.
Your street
Your
to
town.
your town.
Mornings with Paul Turton.
This is where the conversation begins.
On ABC Newcastle and ABC New South Wales.
I know.
Good morning, hope you're enjoying the start to your Monday. Or your Monday could be well and truly underway. You'd like just about to knock off. Thank you for toiling so hard for industry if that's the case. It's glorious where I'm sitting or standing, as the case may be at the moment. The sun is beaming through our studio window today. Let's hope for a little bit of stable weather over the next couple of days. I'll check in with the Bureau to see what's going on there shortly, well, at least in half an hour's time. And it's 10:06. Thanks so much to Wayne from North Rothbury, who says, good morning, Paul. If Donald Trump wins the election, is he then eligible to run for a second term? A lot of discussion, of course, around American politics today, which will continue in just a moment, by the way. We're going to talk about the history of assassinations and assassination attempts, the modern history, if you like. We won't be going back to theater and all that sort of stuff. But recent incidents, do you reckon, is the perception you've got at least that there's been a lot of violence in regard to American politics, more so than we see in Australia? Well, let's see if that plays out when we have that conversation soon here on ABC Newcastle in New South Wales. And by the way, welcome to our listeners on ABC Illawarra in today. Pleasure to fill in for Nick again this morning. So thanks for having us on at your place. Got a bit of stuff going on in regard to the building industry as it continues to pile on the CFMEU following media exposure of underworld links to the union. And this actually goes back about 10 years or so. That's when the ABC in Fairfax did a number of stories that revealed relationships between rogue union officials, motorcycle gangs. Now the MBA, the Master Builders Association, is piling on. They say the CFMEU accounts for less than 10% of industry participants. They have an unyielding stranglehold on builders, subbies and clients, which has gone on for long enough. There's some bit of a pylon on the CFMEU at the moment. News out today is that our kid will
That's
post
you.
It sounds funny when you say it like that, doesn't it? And if you continue the conversation with a little bit of dialogue, it goes something like this. Oh yeah, and where's he staying? In a hotel. What? The kid has to stay in a hotel in his own country. All we know at this stage, by the way, is that His Majesty the King will be here in October with Queen Camilla, that was in New South Wales and the ACT, and will also attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa. My feature song this hour, by the way, which is about half an hour away, will be the #1 song that brought the A-Team back together. George Martin was the Beatles producer, produced this track, and the album was included on it. And the engineer on that recording session was Jeff Emerick, who also worked with Martin on much of the Beatles output. This was George Martin's 20th US #1 as a producer, and the first not involving the Beatles. This band that you're from was formed in England, but the members were all Americans. Do you know the song? Well, if not, I'll put you out of your misery in around about 30 minutes.
ABC Radio, keeping local conversations going.
I think people want to feel connected. They want to believe in each other, and we need that sense of community.
Listening to your show, coming through it, there's a huge power imbalance. This is an industry that is totally unregulated. You're one of my favourite people on the radio. Grew up listening to ABC. Fabulous stuff.
Hey, how you going? Sorry, not too bad. Oh fuck! I'm driving to the Gold Coast, right? Because fuel. I've got to drop fuel off at the airport, and then we're going to SeaWorld. So I did explain that I've got my son for the school holidays, and if I can I join in next week? Is that all right? Yeah. I'm so sorry, Rachel. Yeah. So I'll cut. Yes, please. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thanks. Bye. That's cool. Rachel. See? I still do keep contact with her. All good. Are you alright?
Is that the CrossFit lady?
No, it's the lady who keeps Mummy well, buddy. She's
You okay, Phil?
Alright. It's sad. I don't, I'm just trying not to be.
It's just overwhelming. It's like, just to get this dream happening, it's just going to cost a lot of money, you know. I just can't see the end of it, you know.
Yeah, because I'm going to get. Yeah. So you're going to have hope. Then if you visualize that as well, along with me, and then the universe. Because there's a reason we met, right? I know I sound like a bit loopy, but you even said that, right? And so maybe, like this is karma, you know? And you get loopy and so with it. It's nice. See? No, I do believe that. I think because when I stopped doing being, you know, if I could, right? Bad shit stopped happening, kind of. Yeah, it did. Really, you know. Like I'm not in trouble with the law anymore. You know? It's good. Oscar hasn't heard from me for a while. Yeah, right.
But
it's good though to drive along and go, this is good. I don't feel like I need to be looking in the rearview mirror, or you know.
Saying that
is anti-American when obviously it's part of the social fabric in some perverse way.
We're getting some text messages saying, well, what do you expect? You've got a country where the proliferation of firearms, of course, and people with very strident political views, it's a combination that should lead to this kind of event.
Yes, it's really, really true. And it's funny, the perceptions in Australia of violence in America, to me, are very funny, because actually crime and violence in America has dropped precipitously, if you can believe it, over the past 30 years or so. New York City is one of the safest places anywhere. New York City, paradoxically, is a lot safer than most of the so-called red states, where you still have an extraordinary amount of crime. And at the same time, you have these terrible mass shootings, which get such headlines and are obviously in epidemic proportions. And then you have the rise of political violence, generally, not all, but generally coming from the right that we've seen lately, and a tolerance and acceptance of it in a way that is just unthinkable. So, for example, Joe Biden is speaking right now. He spoke yesterday, kind of very strongly, saying how terrible the attack on Trump was, wishing his family well. Whereas all we've seen over the past 5 years from the right is tolerance, almost encouragement, sometimes mocking support of the violent incidents we've seen. And that's incredibly shocking and represents a huge breaking of country norms.
Bill Wyman, what do we attribute the relative quiet status of violent assaults and attacks against the political class in America? We've got to go back to Paul Pelosi, of course, the elderly husband of the former Speaker of the House a few years ago, of course. And that was not a politically motivated attack, nor would you say was the one involving the representative from Arizona that was killed, I think, a decade or so ago as well.
Yes, Gabby Gifford, that wasn't exactly political in the sense that someone was opposing her, though obviously she was targeted because she was a politician. That was a deranged young man from Arizona. The shooting of, there was a shooting of a congressional baseball practice about 6 years ago in Maryland that shot a Republican congressman. That seemed to have been politically motivated by someone from the left. And the Paul Pelosi attack was definitely someone from the right who was a deranged, sort of right-wing crazo, who was apparently there to attack Nancy Pelosi. And that is a particularly broad example in the context of what I was talking about, because a lot of people in Trump's circle, people on the right, have turned that into a joke. Donald Trump himself has publicly mocked.
I know.
And this was the beating of an 80-something-year-old man with a hammer. And that's something we've never seen before.
It's not unprecedented too, and I know that Donald Trump is a special case, of course, because he has been president of the United States, but it's not uncommon for candidates prior to being elected as president to be the subject of assassination attempts.
Absolutely. There's a history of this, and sometimes we don't hear about it until years later for all sorts of reasons. But you know that Barack Obama, of course, was the target of some attempts, and I think just about every president, going back at least to Nixon, was, including Nixon. Gerald Ford, of course, was the subject of 2 failed assassination attempts in public. Other people have been found later, or
attack on John was really rough.
Turned up later. That, for example, the man who shot George Wallace.
Was that separate to what you saw? Like,
Southern senator, Southern governor in 1972.
That's getting real, man, isn't it?
He had previously gone after Nixon himself. So there also is this weird American thing of these lone drifting from town to town, carrying a gun, looking for an opportunity.
And on the bank too, I think, wasn't it?
Blaze of glory. We don't yet know what motivated the person who shot at Trump. It's hard to imagine that he was a Trump supporter, of course, or someone on the right, but it's not clear that he was, quote unquote, politically motivated from the left as yet.
But all that is like probably a
coverage from,
symptom of you've got really rich people,
Dallas, Texas,
and then there's a gap between the rich and the poor. You know,
has that played a role, do you think? in the fact
that
that there
breeds
haven't
contempt, you know.
been successful assassination attempts?
So you've got the
I
Aboriginal
definitely think
mission,
so, particularly
and
after
actually
the assassination
juxtaposed right
rate.
next to those really,
And again, that was in
Expensive
1981,
houses.
and he was
Yeah.
simply just coming out of a
kind of like
hotel in
a,
Washington, walking
road
just a
rage
few
level,
yards
really.
to a limousine. But of course, any time a
I haven't
president's
seen
out
that
of an
old
area,
mate around.
people know he's
No,
there, sometimes you
maybe
crowd
he's in jail.
built. And
You know the one?
you can't
Who's a lawyer?
pass every
I
single
used to see
person
him
on the street.
all the time. It was funny.
Who might be happening to be walking
You
by.
could tell when he
I
had
lived in
gear
Washington,
when he did,
and
because it was
it's one of those
completely
places
different.
you have all these very important people
Yeah,
walking down the
sorry.
street, going to and
Rough,
fro.
mate. Rough day for you, mate.
You have bollards around certain buildings and not bollards around other buildings. But of course,
Yeah.
when you put any sort of defensive mechanism up,
Pretty
there's going
smart,
to be
mate.
next level vulnerability.
They're pretty cunning.
One of the extraordinary things
They-
we could
they
see
like to eat
coverage
chicken.
of the assassination attempt yesterday is these vans opened up and a
Chickens.
dozen guys in
They eat
military
'em.
outfits and machine guns came storming out. So they were all there.
Why do you ask
right?
that?
There's all these people prepared for an extraordinary event, but the one thing they didn't check was a roof 200 meters away. And of course, there's going to be all sorts of recriminations about the Secret Service, which is possibly
Yeah,
true,
foxes are everywhere.
possibly deserved. But at the same time, I do remember from my years in Washington thinking, you know, if you put knowledge around this building, they're going to go to the one next door. If you put it around that one, they're going to go to a McDonald's. If you put it around the McDonald's, they're going to go to the Hungry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So is kind of, you can't win.
That guy
when it
who's
comes to a
walking,
determined person, it
he's
seems to me
obviously not walking
sometimes.
up the Pacific
Well,
Highway.
they shoot
No.
for hundreds of metres too,
It's
don't
taking
they?
on
All
bush
of us who've
jacks
watched
and
enough
stuff like
TV
that.
know that you can get, you know,
That's wild.
600 yards. Will you know, decent shot will hit the target these days. So
Do
one
you think
wonders
he'd get
how
more
far out you've
publicity?
got to look
Yeah.
to scope for safety.
Maybe it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
it's
there's
just-
also tension. You want introspect. The presidents or the officials say, "Oh, I want to get out with people. I want to shake hands.
I
I
think
want
it's
to go to a
just,
bookstore. I want to get
it's
a
just
burger."
organic, you know?
And you can kind of see in these instances why it keeps the Secret
it's
Service
wild.
people awake at night, worrying about how to prevent not just even the random person walking down the street. And if
Looks
you go
like
back to
30
the question
Ks
about
a
the
day.
prevalence of guns, that's the problem. In a lot of these states, you're allowed to carry a gun
Yeah, it's
anywhere. You're in
See
some
how
states, you're
far
allowed
is
to
it? So
carry
where did you
concealed.
start, Melbourne?
Other states, you're allowed to carry it.
The most southern tip.
concealed.
Yeah,
That
so
is very threatening.
Cape,
So
not Cape
it's
Trip, Cape,
often that this
Cape
happened
something.
in what they call rural
Yeah.
Cape
Pennsylvania. when
Salamander or something.
Pennsylvania is
like
one
right
of those
down
famous
in
states.
southern Victoria.
The rural
When
parts
did
that are
you
very,
start?
very conservative,
Beginning of the year, or?
and the urban
A
parts
few
of
months
it
ago.
are
Well, only a few months ago.
liberal in the American sense. You know, they're
That's
very
insane.
democratic.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's got a fair way to go
Pennsylvania's
there,
often
hasn't he?
described as two cities
Probably about
with
halfway,
Alabama,
isn't
you know,
he?
surrounded by Alabama.
Halfway is
being
about
red
Brisbane,
southern
yeah.
states. So
Yeah,
it's
right.
ironic that he
Yeah,
was
not
shot at
halfway, yeah.
in a very rural, urban area.
Yeah, okay. Bill Wyman, thanks for those reflections. I appreciate you coming on today.
I didn't realise,
Paul,
yeah,
thank you so
halfway
much
to
for having
Brisbane.
Bill Wyman
So
is
Queensland's got
from
quite a
Sydney
long-
University,
Just
joining us on
like
ABC
under a
Newcastle. It's
sheet,
20
you know,
past
like-
10.
Yeah.
0487 99 1233. If you'd like to tell us anything today. Maria says she
And
was
then every
disappointed that the ABC
sort
cut
of
all programs
week or 2
yesterday
weeks or
covering the
so,
Trump incident until
like
after
in
12.
McLean.
Yeah.
Like,
The ABC News Channel for that type of coverage. She says,
Yeah.
well, we do make editorial decisions based on the
McLean's enough today.
significance
Going to have
of
a
events,
go
Maria,
to the
but
pub
on
and go to have a
forward on
beer.
your
We probably,
observations
you know, might have
to
stayed at the
our
pub,
team.
you know.
Yeah.
And if
And then
Australia
he
was a
just
true
sleeps on the
democracy,
side of the
I'd do the
road or
same
on
where
the
my
beach
hard
or-
tax dollars are
That's
spent,
crazy.
says Deetsy. No war machines and
Very
no
low.
He got washed off the
money
rocks down in
Wanna keep
Wollongong.
visits.
Yeah,
Had to
yeah.
get
That's his
rescued.
opinion
Yeah,
today.
he said.
0487
It's very lonely,
99
isn't it?
1233.
But maybe he's got that personality style.
In our conversation with
Yeah, it
Bill
seems
Wyman,
like
he
he's got
mentioned
that
that the President of the United States, Joe Biden, was
I'd
holding a press
get
conference.
lonely.
Here's part of what he had to say.
I
There's
think.
no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized.
Because Queensland, of course, like, so it's about 400 between each mate, so like you've got fucking Rockhampton. And it's about, I think, 400, maybe 400, I think. No, it'd be more than that. Or was it 4 hours up to Mackay? And then it's another 4 hours sort of thing up to
going to shape the future of America
fucking
and the world for decades to come.
there.
I believe that with all my soul.
4 hours to Cairns.
I
So
know
it's-
that
or
millions of
maybe
my fellow
400.
Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy.
Seems to be, the towns seem to be great.
Politics must
The major
never
ones
be a
are
little
sort
battlefield,
of equal
God
in
forbid,
space.
a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence
So the
and our
coast of
Constitution.
Queensland's quite long then,
We
eh?
stand for an America.
Brisbane
Not
only
an
like
extremism,
halfway.
sure, but in decency and grace.
Pretty bad.
All of us now face a time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passion becomes.
Miles.
This places an
Don't
added
start
burden on
now,
each of us
okay?
to ensure that no matter how strong our
Miles,
convictions, we must
we've got
never
another
cede to
howl in the
violence.
car. If you start that, I'll let you out. You can
speaking at a
walk.
press conference earlier.
Alright, we
One
better not.
wonders what role that conversation or that discussion,
Yeah, I'll put a skateboard on the back.
quelling a little bit of
Show you along.
unease. The conspiracy theorists are
Fart
going
to
crazy.
your,
I know when
you
you're on
fart
social
noises
media,
to your heart's
everything
content.
from
As
the
you're
Trump
sitting on the
campaign staged it
skateboard.
with effects to
Behind the car.
being the result
Yeah, just tie a
of
rope
the
up. You
opposing
can sit on
side
the skateboard
intervening
behind the
in the
car.
election process. It's 22 past 10.
Yeah, we'll
This
just
is
don't do that
ABC
then.
Newcastle.
Okay?
ABC Illawarra and also ABC New South Wales. Hope you're fitting well on this Monday.
Well, maybe. I don't know. Depends though. If I explain to the police officer
Well, then you're making fart noises.
Yeah.
He'll go, no worries.
yeah, what the situation is, I think they make exceptions. Yeah? There you go. I getcha. Getcha. Understand the situation. Nothing to see here. Just keep going. No, but he wouldn't, because they just understand. Most police officers are parents as well, they get it. I mean, we'll get you a big skateboard. Oh, no. That's right. Have you ever been in Lily?
No.
Museum in there.
When I got on the plane to come home, there was there's a dude. So, like I picked my seat like next to the window so I could have a sleep. And there was an Indian dude with his like two young kids.
Yeah.
And they were all sitting three across.
Yeah.
I said, I'm in the corner.
Yeah.
And he goes, would you mind? Like, we're a family, we want to sit together. I'm like, yeah, I do mind.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, really? And I go, yeah, mate, I'm tired.
Yeah.
So I booked the window for a reason.
Yeah.
And then he goes and gets the air hostess to come and ask me.
Yeah.
And I said to the air hostess, I said, listen, I've just come off shift. And I said, I'm tired. And I said, I booked the seat for a reason. If he wants to, if he wanted his family together,
Yeah, book it together.
then you book your seats together.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, that's okay. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's my answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, don't jump on the plane
Yeah.
and go, oh, Kenya.
No.
No.
No, don't jump on the plane.
You can get your 3 seats together. Yeah, that's right. Just book further up this plane, you asshole. Yeah. Because you were right up the front, right? Yeah, that's he wanted up the front with his family. Fuck off. That doesn't happen, mate. Yeah, and then they made you feel guilty because it's the kid.
Oh, yeah, it's my problem.
It's not
my problem,
It's not your
mate.
problem. Yeah.
I booked and paid for a seat and I picked it.
Yeah.
That's my seat. That's the one I wanted. If I wanted one in the aisle on the other side of the plane, I would have booked that one.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't.
Exactly. What an asshole. Yeah. Well.
But
Yeah.
like, the way that he went about it,
Yeah.
because I just go, no, mate.
Yeah.
And then he goes and like asks the host,
I said, yeah.
like to come and ask me as if like I'm going to change my mind. And I said, no. Look, I said no. She goes, oh, would you mind moving? I said, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
And she was like a bit taken aback. I said, no. I said, look, I've just come off shift. I said, I'm tired. I said, I booked this seat so that I can have a nap.
Yeah.
I'll sleep on the way home. I'm going to be driving the other end of this flight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yep, that's fine. And I'm like,
Yeah. I don't think they're allowed to move people anyway because of the manifest. Like, you know, if something happens, they want to know where people are. Yeah, like, but yeah.
you know, if you've got a situation where you're booking and you need 3 seats in a row, then book them earlier, get organised. Don't expect me. Don't expect someone else who's paid for their seat because you've got to pay extra for that seat.
Yeah. Oh, really?
100%.
Oh, well, go. That's what he's pretty tight ass cunt. Yeah. Yeah.
100%. You got to pay extra.
Well, I know you've got to pay extra sometimes for the one over the wing because you get more leg room. But then if you shit hits the fan,
The first 5 rows you got to pay extra.
well, that's in Jetstar.
And Virgin.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, right. Because it's like modified business, but not really. Yeah, I used to like to be as far close to the front as I could. Because when I was a smoker, I'd like to get out for my cigarette really quickly. Very quickly. I was good at maintaining the pain fast as. I've learned how to get through security with, like, you know, heels. You just take a big step over and it skims it. You don't get caught by the metal detector. The air hostess told me that. Yeah, what do you do?
What's that?
Well, if you're trying to get through the security real quick for a cigarette, actually, you don't have to take your boots off because I had black long boots on. Just take a big stride over, and she said you'll get past the metal detector, and I did, and it worked. But then the next time, I think I'd had a few too many drinks, and I was very obvious about the big stride that I was taking, and it was like the Ministry of Funny Walks, you know. The air hostess is pretty more slick about it.
Talking about a publishing date of 1726 by Jonathan Swift, and he actually didn't write that for children originally. You know, it was influenced by the development of adventure stories in children's literature, which kind of led to the success of that novel. And it goes on to say, actually, adventures are thrilling, they're exotic tales, and Robinson Crusoe, that was 1719 by Daniel Defoe.
right.
kind of goes on to lay the groundwork for future adventure
They're
stories
allowed
that
to
are
get
now
free
actually
piss.
aimed at young readers. So you start to see not just kind of that adult audience, but actually adventure stories for younger people, which is quite significant.
At this stage, they're predominantly real stories, aren't they, about real things that can be imagined. When did fantasy become part of it, Alex?
Yeah, we start to see that shifting in around the 1800s, so that 19th century, and that's what's referred to as the golden age of children's literature. So when we talk about fantasy, Paul, we're talking about Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, perhaps Treasure Island. You start to see some fantasy and realism here. And what's quite innovative and exciting about this is Lewis Carroll's Alice's in Wonderland was so groundbreaking because we see a text here that's nonsensical, it's whimsical, it's playing with logic and language, and it's starting to break up these traditional adventure elements into fantasy that's not only going to captivate children but actually do something progressive and exciting with storytelling. Kind of building on those more didactic elements from the past in a bit of an exciting and very creative way.
It's interesting, isn't it? You look at something like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and the fantasy about that, about the whimsical nature of it, and you can see a lot of the modern children's song in that, wash your face in orange juice and all that sort of stuff, things that are so outrageous and out of this world as to be incredible.
That's exactly right, and we do start to see this way of engaging children through entertainment, this element of fun starting to play in the adventure here as well. And so again, Carroll was quite significant in pushing that forward.
All right, what about J.M. Barrie? How significant was Peter Pan in this process?
Yeah, so now we're up to the 1900s, and so Peter Pan was published in 1911, and well, it was actually published as a play script first and had quite success, and so really for that to go on becoming J.M. Barrie's novel. Barrie was a Scotsman, and of course the story of a boy who never grows up has kind of really captured the hearts and minds of so many people. And so when this kind of novel was first done as a play script and then as a novel, the idea of an eternal childhood and adventure, actually kind of has this cultural impact now because Pan becomes so synonymous with the idea of never growing up and goes on to inspire lots of adaptations. We see Peter Pan in the theatre and in film and literature and references there. So we start to kind of see this wider cultural trend actually having an impact from the story itself.
So a lot of the stuff you've said that you've highlighted, Alex, gives us an insight into why something like Harry Potter will be so successful, because it's multifaceted. It works on a number of levels.
That's right. So we really see now like the global cultural impact of text, and Harry Potter's a really good example. So J.K. Rowling, writing from 1997 over a decade to 2007, really actually kind of redefines children's adventure literature through her work through the series. It's got this kind of global impact. The success leads to this unprecedented wave of merchandise. We're talking theme parks, the film franchise, and in doing all of that, Rowling actually kind of solidifies Harry Potter in adventure literature in popular culture, and so these kind of books started to have a midnight release party, for example. There was this fan fiction community underpinning it, and it made reading quite a shared social experience for children and adults alike in the adventure world.
Alex, thanks to Louise in there, she raises an interesting question about 60,000 plus years of Indigenous history in this country. It'd be interesting to chronicle whether there are similar trends in terms of the development from the factual into fantasy and so on through stories like Dreamtime, and whether or not there's some sort of chronological process in the way stories were told, particularly the young.
Absolutely, Paul, that's such a good point. And we did start off this conversation by saying really this is a discussion around Western literature, but in terms of First Nation storytelling,
don't go midway.
Because straight there's always been where it is,
dreaming of song lines which travel
generally,
country, whether it's Newcastle or whatever parts we're
not anymore though, because
it's so key to identity, it's so key to value and place, and that's something we want to keep celebrating and sharing.
E.E. Doc Smith and his Lensman series, and Michael Moorcock and the Eternal Champion series. I don't know those. Tim from Toukley has contributed those two authors and book series. And thanks to another contributor who says, I love the Famous Five at school, couldn't wait for Friday.
Yeah, I love Famous Five.
That's great.
Eat a bite.
Very,
Secret
very
Seven knows better.
Another thing that's really engaged with kids, of course, is the kid hero, and that's why something like The Hunger Games, of
Treasure
course,
Island.
written by Suzanne Collins, why that
Never
would
really
work, right?
watched that one.
That's exactly right. So there's something
Or is
now
it
we're
red?
seeing in this kind of very contemporary shift, particularly over the last couple of decades in particular, where we're seeing this kind of hunger and thirst for more diversity and representation. So now, if you and I were to look at bestsellers in young adult fiction or adventure narratives, Paul, we'd be seeing literature that looks at characters from ethnic backgrounds, from different genders, not always being male, their abilities being more prominently featured. And actually, this is kind of providing younger readers and families with relatable heroes and heroines, but ones that actually can be quite relatable. They still might draw on aspects of mythology and culture, and something like Percy Jackson and The Lightning Thief, you and your listeners might be familiar with. You mentioned Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. These are texts that have very, very strong young people as their protagonists who want to challenge authority, who want to challenge the regime, who want to challenge adults, which believe. And so that idea of this post-apocalyptic world of them wrestling with their identity, their sense of self, even mental health, is really bringing new voices and diverse perspectives to traditional adventure literature, which is a great thing, and that diversity is to be celebrated.
Changing times, of course, will be responsible for a lot of the variation in literature and the refinement of it over time. Kate raises an interesting question. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. If he be alive or if he's dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. That would never be allowed in today's nanny state, she says, far too traumatising to delicate young minds. Nor would we expose our hatters to mercury, I couldn't imagine.
No, that's exactly right, and it's so interesting if we think about the nature of storytelling and what was culturally appropriate. Roald Dahl's, a number of his texts, including the Twits, the references to Matilda, have kind of undergone this new sensitivity checking, cultural checking, how writers, Roald Dahl was writing in the 60s, how writers talked about people at the time, including physical appearance, and looking at it now in a 2024 lens, is that okay, is that acceptable, is that appropriate? And so, as an English teacher, I'm always challenging and talking with my students as well as my own kids at home and saying this was written as a product of the time, the worldview and lens of the time. We wouldn't be saying this now, but what was the writer trying to do at the time, whether it be entertain, make a comment, criticise, and so I do think that conversation, that critical engagement is very important.
Excellent. Alex, thanks so much.
Thank you, Paul. Great to hear from you.
Alex Wharton is a teacher and a judge at the Children's Book Council, talks literature with us from time to time, and it's 21 to 11 here on ABC Newcastle, ABC New South Wales and ABC Illawarra. Let's see what's going on with the weather. Alpine conditions in the mountains and pretty much everywhere else. It was decidedly wintry this morning, wasn't it? And that's about all I can see on live traffic at the moment. There's plenty going on in regard to warnings around Alpine areas, certainly in our high-profile holiday areas, of course, advice of upcoming traffic issues for this final week of the school holidays. But if you've got something to tell us of a more dramatic nature, 0487 99 1233, broken dead cars, traffic accidents, 0487 99 1233. Traffic. And as far as the weather is concerned, I got that around about the wrong way. But I think I survived and got past you okay. A ridge of high pressure extends across the state from the west while a low pressure system is moving towards Tasmania. So scattered showers across the ranges and western slopes, snow falling on the Alps above 700 metres. Snow also possible in the central tablelands above 800 metres today, and the northern tablelands above 1,000 metres. Blizzards possible on the Alpine peaks above 1,900 metres today, so plenty of adverse weather around just at the moment. But of course, the
Right, I'll make it in the camp today.
Coastal locations, at least
Why
at the
not?
moment.
Oh, because it was
It's very comforting. Scattered showers continuing about the ranges into Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, with the rain.
What happens then? They just put you up in Cooper?
The ranges and adjacent western slopes around the middle of the week. As far as temperatures are concerned, at the moment, let's just double check what's going on around New
Can you
South
bet
Wales.
in camp?
14 degrees at the moment. Maria has 12. Tamworth 10 degrees.
Yeah, they have a tap there.
Yeah,
It's just like a big party tent, Jill.
Right up here, because the old mate had his, karaoke going. It's party central, eh? That's what it is. Go party, yeah. The whole week. why you're so tired when you get home.
South Wales. My feature song this hour is a song that got the 18 back together. George
Oh, wait, it's
Martin,
being
who
supplied?
you know as the producer of the Beatles, teamed up with Jeff Emerick, who was the engineer on much of the Beatles material as well.
I'm on to you.
Got back together in 1975 for this song, and it was a #1 hit. It was the second album that George Martin worked on for this particular band, and it was his 20th US #1 as a producer, his first not involving the Beatles. This particular band was formed in England, but the members were all Americans. Their dads were all over there working at military bases in Europe. Do you know the song? This might refresh your memory.
Oh, this is a banger? Yeah. Is it a banger or a clanger? It's a clanger. Not a banger. It's a shit song. Still though. Yeah, right. What was that?
Accidental songs.
A bit hot there, mate.
Can't get over that custard apple. It's killing it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I must admit, even though I didn't say I thought it was dead, I did. But, you know, I'm a bit superstitious this way because as soon as you start to say a plant's dead, then it dies. And they know. You never say the D word. I think that I figured it out. But I couldn't believe, like, kind of like how easy it was to make mango trees. So I kept making them. And in my head, I was like, wouldn't it be wild if I made a tree out of every mango I made this season? That's where I was going. But I now realise that was very silly. And I don't know. There's not a big market out there. You got that skateboard?
Oh.
I think we got the skateboard. We have to stop at Ballina and get one. Yeah.
You've got the foundation at least to then start to springboard a bit.
So why are we so crap at budgeting, most people? Is most people
Terrible
an
word,
adequate description?
Most people, yeah. Look, I think it's probably 50-50 with the people we meet. Some people are naturally either frugal or very good with just not overshooting it, not spending on items they don't really care about. And then others will, you know, earn more and more and more and creep up their lifestyle as they go and burn more cash as a result. And I mean, that's due to a whole bunch of reasons. It could be a big long backstory from the days where you grew up with stories around money, or it might just be an unwitting knowledge or a lack of knowledge around where you stand and what your money could actually do for you, or maybe no goals or not really clear on where you're going with it.
It's funny you should mention the old times, because I remember working with a woman in the 1970s who actually had envelopes inside her purse where she would put money in for holidays. There would be the housekeeping.
Ballina.
Yeah.
You know, electricity.
Where the
whatever.
Christmas
There
lights
were
were, buddy?
Separate sections in the wallet.
That's actually a
Ballina.
strategy. I mean, you've got apps
Defo?
and all sorts of accounts for it now, but that's a great
Yeah,
way.
defo.
Okay. So how do you go about doing it then? How do you ensure that you've got sufficient funds?
So start with writing out your expenses.
Your
We use a
defo.
template that just
I think those ears are painted on.
up and then categorize.
Not real.
From, I guess the easy part, the fun from the boring. The boring side of
Defo,
things is always
defo.
going to be there. And set up an account for your bills, have your money coming into there, and then having it flowing automatically. So have a good budget, categorize it appropriately for what you care about. That might be the travel goal, it might be the envelope like that, or so to speak. And then from there you can have the good account structure allows you to then automate and set up so the day you get paid it flows into all these accounts at the levels they should be.
So you pay your electricity monthly, for example. You've got an ongoing debit.
Yeah, I mean, our electricity is quarterly, but we have it sitting in our bills account as a buffer, so it's always in there.
Right.
And the good thing about splitting bills from lifestyle or boring from fun is we're not tapping that boring account. We know if we're out partying or having fun with friends or family or whatever it might be, that's the lifestyle fund, that's the one you need to be more conscious of. But the bills, as long as there's a bit of a buffer in there, you can handle those big annual, quarterly bills as well.
Yeah, okay. How good are we at generally living within our means? We know if we're doing it tough, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do, and a good
Miles.
sign that when we're doing it tough is that when
No, I don't care, mate. Teddy's an inanimate object. No gas, no industrial track. It's you making noise, okay? Right, well, you know what? You won't show Teddy because we'll throw him out the window.
Okay,
Okay, we'll stop it then.
Through the roof, and you know, we're seeing lots and lots of people who 2 years ago
We'll
were
tell him
really
to plug his asshole.
feeling the pinch, and of course there's worse than that.
There was a narrative around the baby boomers
Simple.
getting through this struggle relatively easy because, you know, as a
No,
race,
it's not. It's rude of you to keep making
fake
annoying fart noises and then blaming it on a stuffed animal that obviously doesn't fart.
Like they make renting the moment. So mortgages didn't
Yeah,
quite
well,
much of a
you
impact at
heard the warning,
all. But
you
I see
heard it.
today where reverse mortgages
Alright,
are
so
on the
why
rise
is
as
boy
well. There's more
listen?
people going back to the bank and saying, hey, we own the asset, but
Just
can you
stop
give us a
making,
bit of money?
stop doing
get
it,
back later?
basically.
And that's a sign
Alright,
that
got
we're
me?
asset rich.
Don't try me, alright?
That spot.
Well, don't make fart noises then.
Income that they work for more properties
Alright,
they're
if you don't make fart
holding.
noises,
Property's
he's
not
safe.
a great asset to hold into retirement. It's a great asset for growth, but it doesn't give you
Got
a lot
me?
of income. And ultimately, that might mean that you need to start selling
Yes, not
things down
empty
or
though.
first mortgaging to pay the bills.
So what about changes in your life, the stages of your life? Does your description of how to best cope prepare for that? Does that change as well?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to really keep your goals in mind. The first step of insufficient funds is define. So get really clear on the things that matter.
Oh,
but don't
trust
just
me.
think that's not a static point.
I don't make
So
empty
you set
threats.
your goals, and I'd be reviewing that every 12 months. And that might be things like getting married, starting a family, buying the house, and you know, we're generalising here. That's very, very standard. But if you're ticking these milestones off, then you need to stop and redefine them. And as long as your strategy, your money strategy behind that grows with it, then and adapts along the way, then you're on track.
Often when it's just words, isn't it? A lot of people, it's like New Year's resolutions, right? Give up the ciggies, you know, cut back on the grog and knock a few Ks off. We all say that every 31st of December, but not a lot of us do it. Where does the discipline for all of that come in?
I think it's underpinned by the money strategy, right? So if you've got some really clear motivated goals, and paying off debt's not a goal, right? And you've got to realise, people come in and talk to us and they say, hey, we say, what's your goals? And start there. And that's a really tough question to answer, right? But just see where it goes. But it's always save tax, or save more money, or pay off debt. Like, that's great. What's it going to allow you to do? You need to push yourself, be almost like the annoying toddler. Why? Dig deeper and deeper until you get to something that actually drives you. And then you can link your money decisions back to that. And so if you've got clarity over that side of things, then you've got the system underpinning it. I like that quote from James Clear in his book Atomic Habits is, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so the goals are important to a point, but they're a lot of fluff if you're not doing anything about it underneath, and that's the spending plan, the categorising. And from there, once you've got some money left over, looking at strategy and should you be investing, should you be building wealth, are you in a position to do a bit more about it?
The concept of the buffer is a brilliant one for a number of reasons, because, you know, touch wood, we may be unemployed next week, you know, and it'd be nice to know that you can go home and, you know, put the thinking cap on and take a little bit of time, a little bit of pause to try and work out what you do next, rather than have the urgency of, you know, a bunch of bills so heavy that the fridge magnets can no longer keep them on the fridge, you know, they keep sliding down.
And that's that critical emergency fund, that's that rainy day account that really a few months expenses for most people is probably okay. If you're in a volatile role, or if you've got a bunch of kids and other people dependent on your money or big mortgage, then maybe you want a bit more than that. But having something to fall back on that's siloed, put it in a different bank, put it away where you don't see it every day, then you've got that. It's not for the lounge, it's not for upgrading the car, but if the car breaks down or something else blows up, or medical emergency, someone's stuck overseas, something like that, you can drop everything in and help out.
See, that's the thing, is a lot of people would just see that as being money that I don't really want to use, but they wouldn't silo it to the extent that you're suggesting. And again, that's a discipline thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, there's two parts to when you think about it. When we work with a lot of first home buyers, and if they don't have that emergency fund out of the home deposit account, we're splitting that out straight away. Because if you go and buy a home, and if you don't get that part right, and doing other things like getting income protection and things like that sorted before you do that, factor it in your budget, have your emergency account siloed, then you're going in a little bit more risky.
How many people talk to, we know that there are industry stats on how many people talk to financial planners?
It's about 20% see a financial advisor, and that is steadily growing, but it's not many. And unfortunately, cost is driven. Cost and, you know, stories around the good, the bad, and the ugly, of course. And so the great thing about advice is it's not affordable to everyone, but there's a huge amount of value for the right people. And so it is one of those areas where sometimes it can be quite costly to engage an advisor, and so you're generally talking in the thousands, not the hundreds, as a good starting point. But for the people who are earning enough money to have money left over or sitting on a bunch of cash, we unfortunately work with a lot of clients who may have an inheritance or something like that. Then these things trigger that, what am I doing now? You often get to a point, and we'd encourage everyone, educate yourself, please, as much as you possibly can. But you will get to a point where we've got some options, we're not sure which way to turn, and that's where advice, or at least a free conversation with an advisor to start with, is a good stepping stone just to see if it's for you.
James, I appreciate you coming in to chat about your book. Did you burn the candle at both ends?
Oh, still burning. Absolutely. Thanks.
The house is on fire. Go to this, James Billard's book is Community Fishing Farms, and this is ABC Newcastle and ABC New South Wales. Also on ABC Illawarra this morning.
Oh, another banger.
Gosh, you're harsh
What?
on my radio. You like it. You like listening to the stories.
Oh, actually,
Do you?
as soon as you get out the car. Oh, it's a bit of Tina Turner. Because she looked like Tina Turner. Remember that? She was tonight. I took myself down to the club and I checked my shields. And I walk into the club and you see the girl that looks like Tina Turner. They call Tina Turner because she looks like Tina Turner. She said, "Rocket ride," and I said, "Yeah, rocket ride."
Yes, we like.
Ticket to the rocket. So I put it in my hand and I put it in my mouth.
So what's we're coming up in Bangalore? So what's happening then? Is he trying to get you into somewhere else?
No, they said yeah, somewhere else. Yeah. So what I'll do, like, I'll make sure it doesn't forget. Yeah. Yeah, I'll make sure it doesn't forget.
What made you feel uncomfortable?
No, I don't know. Like, I don't know. He said, he called me, or I can't remember now. Like, some of the. Look, I don't want to even make any. I don't know why make anything. I just did feel a bit uncomfortable, yes. But it wasn't. Didn't know. It was just some. Look, some men of that age lose their filters a little bit. And I think it was not in intention, no, but it was
What's Love got to do with it? And Tina Turner here on ABC Newcastle, ABC New South Wales, and ABC Illawarra. We're just doing.
So is he being creepy like
damaging winds
like an older man who
southern tableland, snowy mountains,
you know,
the ACT, and
call someone
slopes,
bank stars to the
beautiful girl? Yeah.
Like the same way that an older man would go and order a beer and say inappropriate things to the barman.
Yeah.
So nothing ill intention.
No, nothing ill intention. No, that's right, exactly right. And I think also he was a bit nervous because he knew that I was too. So I don't think that's why I didn't want to make him feel it. But personally, I could do without that, you know. But I can brush that aside. Like didn't feel, like he was going to do anything rapey or anything.
So what was the outcome?
Well, he said, "Yeah, I'm right behind you. You know, you need to get this sorted out. You know, and yeah, going to get a referral to see someone." And so he did the referral, and then I got a call from the receptionist after that, and they said, oh look, that place is not taking new places, so we're just going to keep trying to see who does. So that was, I haven't heard anything. So next week will be Health Week, because we've got Paps there, obviously Rachel, and I'll follow it up then.
And who's the Paps with?
Amber, Community Health.
Okay.
Right.
And then,
Brown from Gun Control Australia has told ABC
no, I had the
Radio
checks,
Sydney.
but it's not.
No.
Yeah.
So, did you mention anything about going forward that you wanted to get back into medicine?
Yeah, and he agreed. He said, like, you shouldn't go to waste. But then in the next breath he said, yes, but the 7 million, if you could fill out the paperwork to that effect, that would be good. And he was like, all on board. That would be handy. Yes. He was very malleable. You know?
Yeah.
I could, because even if I get the payout right, at the moment it's where I want to play it, because even if I get that, it doesn't mean I can't work, right? Because the argument is not that I'm complete spaz, incapable of anything. What the argument is that I cannot go back to work as a staff specialist nephrologist and earn 350k per year.
Yeah,
That's the argument, and that much is true, really. So I don't see that there's anything really dodgy about that. And also, that much is true insofar as, look, all personal things aside, and I know at the point, we've had the discussion, and if anyone said anything to me, I probably would have told them to fuck off at that time. But all things aside, there was not really an empathetic or, I was treated very punitively, and I'm not playing the victim here, I take responsibility for anything. But when you look at it from a legal perspective, right, which then that, there's a case that was contributory towards the end of my career, not the cause, but the point that there is that there's this conundrum with any doctor that faces any sort of addiction problem, is that you can't come forward for help, right, because they fry you, right? So something's got to change in that system because of the prevalence of addiction and substance abuse issues in the medical profession. It's just, I know you've got to protect the industry, but you've also got to protect the workers in it. You know what I mean? And when you feel that you can't go to anyone because you're going to be ostracised and alienated and fucking stigmatised, then it doesn't work, I mean,
yeah, I get on.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get 7 million.
Yeah, we didn't know. Right.
Sure.
Okay, right, okay, but I'll get something, so, Yeah.
Look, this will be your ballpark, right?
Yeah.
Get your calculator up.
No, hang on.
What are you doing?
Just doing something here. I just can't just finish it, okay?
Well, you tell me what you're doing.
Just putting it, just polishing up in this thing. Okay.
You can spend time with me, but that's
I am.
And you just stay on night.
Oh, stop it. It's enough. I'm feeling very. I think I need it.
Objectified.
I feel like I need a. I actually do feel like I need a vape. Just being very uptight. Hey?
I can't believe you got spoken to on that.
No, I was just being a bit loose with it. That wasn't very wise.
After I told you.
Yeah, I could have still. You just shouldn't have been looser. This is class, no was. Should be right. Should be right.
And yeah. After that, I googled like people that the internet obviously listens to you, because then I started getting videos of people getting kicked off planes for vaping, and I watched like one after another, and all of them were women, every single one of them, and every single one of them is just like, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Too late. You were so lucky that there wasn't drama.
Yeah. It's because I was.
They weren't, you know, angry or anything like that.
No.
And I'll tell you what, they were like, all of them. Sorry, you know.
Yeah.
People lived
Yeah, I know.
hand-to-mouth existences in those places, and there was an alarming amount of hard drugs circulating around.
Anyway.
But for all that, these places were exciting.
Are we here yet?
Yeah.
This looked like an airport.
You're lousy. Some of the questions you asked, mate. I scored.
What does look like an airport?
It looks like an airport. What? The orange airport?
We're going to the airport.
Hey, buddy.
I'm going to the airport to go to work.
Yeah, and,
Your question was, are we there yet? Does this look like an airport? So are we there yet?
No.
Correct.
Hey, look, buddy, look at this train over here. See that? The bacon, that's where Snugglecock comes from. Have you heard of him? Oh, I used to love Snugglecock butterflies. No, put it back. No, you're not a big Why did you go to Snugglecock butterfly?
Yeah, there's a really, really little one.
Where are you going?
I got lost.
There's a really, really little one.
Yeah.
On the ground.
Yeah.
That they're all licking.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It just come out.
Yeah, I just got a footage of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful.
Everything you say, it's yeah.
It's really lovely.
Did you ever talk about her at all after she moved to
Bye-bye.
We never talked much about it at all. A couple of years after that, the family moved down to Sydney.
I miss you already.
We're told that
Not fair.
eventually Eloise moved down to another big hospital.
No, not couple. No, 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 no. No, no couple. No, no, no. No, no couple. Yeah. There's always your great dad. No people. What? I don't know. I turned off my cafe. Might have gone to yours. My friend's bossy though. Like when we go to
at the end of the day, this same heavy breathing, it seemed to be coming closer and closer.
What did they do when they heard it at the end of the bed?
They sprung up and looked at each other and said, what was that? And jumped up and turned the lights on, by which time it had stopped. And then came running through the house, waking everybody up to see if there was someone in the house, and there wasn't. And then the next morning, my mum and dad mentioned it to our neighbours, and our neighbour's father was a funeral director, and he'd actually done the funeral of this young boy 12 months before, and I think my mum actually mentioned it to her neighbour, and she checked up. She said that sounds like it was around about the same time as that kid was found in the gully across the road. Anyway, 12 months before, this young boy had been in the gully in the bush where we all played as kids. One day with two friends, and he had an asthma attack, and his friends panicked and went home and left him there and didn't say anything to anyone. And that night it was a cold, wet, wintry Sydney night at that time, and the following day, it was during school holidays, so it was around this time of year. The following day, there was ambulances and police, and they brought this kid out of the gully, and they later found out that he died from exposure to this asthma attack. And where they found his body, he would have been facing our house, looking towards it. And the chances, I think my father checked up, he was working night shift that day, so he would have come home late with the bedroom light on and been out on the balcony smoking his pipe, and that light would have shone straight across to the gully.
What do you make of all that, anyway? I mean, I've had interesting things happen to me in my life, and my attitude is to look at that line from Hamlet, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, your ratio. That's all I can sort of glint with that sort of stuff.
Exactly, very much so. I was only 14 years of age then, and being an asthmatic myself, I somehow connected with it and sort of related to this sort of kid at a similar age to myself.
Were you frightened by it, or did it strike you with passion?
When I think of it now, I think of the atmosphere of the time, of the place, of sort of, you know, wintry, sort of dark. It was a kind of sad atmosphere, and the whole house was actually that whole time. So it seemed to manifest itself like that.
Podcast and broadcast. This is Conversations with Richard Feidler. Find more conversations anytime on the ABC Listen app.
You mentioned your parents weren't happy together. What was the core of their unhappiness together, do you think?
A lot of it went to my sister. That had a huge impact on it. And probably my father, who I only learned it when my mother died. Actually, I found their marriage certificate, and I realised that my parents had got married.
Just being in debt does that,
with me a few months. So I thought, that's why my father always had this resentment. He was, he was probably never cut out for being a family person. And
was he more ambitious? Did he want to be out in the world?
Very much so.
Miles, can you turn that volume down, please?
When he was drinking, and he was
right down so we can't hear it.
He stopped drinking, he sobered up, and
thank you, mate.
Had this ambition, and
we don't want anyone to hear it. Or I take the iPad away.
When we were kids, he had this opportunity.
Miles,
no,
turn it right down. 0, please.
Pushing my mum.
You don't need to hear it.
Do that for
okay?
Or something. And my mum would say, fancy your father wanting to drag us off to New York. And I thought, wow, what a place to grow, being the teens growing up and going to school in the United Nations. But that's how different they were, and that's really, they were two very different people.
So when you left home in the 1970s, what were you like in those first years of living out of home?
I was pretty hopeless. I was as hopeless as my father would have been, actually. I had no goals or ambitions.
Well, you didn't tell yourself, I've got to be an artist at that stage?
No.
Did you think you could be?
I didn't even know what an artist was. My brother and I got kicked out of school, actually, 2 schools in a short period, 6 months or so. And it was like, well, off to the workforce you go. And back in those days, you just walk in, there were lots of jobs. And I found a job in the city in an office, and I worked there for 18 months, and it was the longest job I had. Then I just sort of drifted through all these different jobs for the next 10 years, really, until my early 20s. And similar to my father, I stopped drinking and got myself together. And by this time, my son had been born, and it was only later, really, that I had the opportunity to go to art school.
So you had a son, and he was born prematurely. What did that mean for you?
He was 3 months pregnant, and his mother and I spent a lot of time in the hospital. He later had
Miles, can you turn it? Yeah, but I want you to. I can hear it, so I want you to turn it right down. No, to 0, please. Or also take the iPad away. Okay.
In the hospital where he was born.
And he feels sad. He doesn't want to hear it. Alright?
You and your partner split up
Makes
while
him
your
sad.
son was still a baby, and eventually.
Just be considerate. No, Miles, have some respect. Come on, mate.
Fighting all night, and there was a house across the road that had a big sign around it saying, "Prepare to meet thy God." and that was the headquarters of the Church of the Open Skies, apparently.
Right.
I found out.
So there was also the big breweries around there in those
yes,
days.
the big brewery down here, and you could smell it every morning. It was a wonderful smell, even though I'd stopped drinking by then. It was a great smell.
So how did you find your way to a more communal way of living and raising kids?
I thought this is not a very good place for a 2-3-year-old child growing up, and I found this community kids co-op over in Glebe, and I started taking my son to there. I got involved there and met people, and some of those people lived in squats in Newtown, and they invited me up for lunch for dinner one night with my son, and these were people I'd gone to university. They were responsible people. Their kids were all around the same age as my son, and they lived in this row of little workers' cottages in Newtown, and there was one empty one there. They said, look, no one's taken this house because it doesn't have any windows, it doesn't have any water, electricity, nothing like that. You need to put floorboards, replace things. If you want it, move in. So I started to go down each day. I dropped my son off the kids' co-op and patch this place up, find bits of glass, I learned how to be a plumber in a sense, to put all these pipes in, and got it almost habitable, and to the point where I got the gas board to come out and sort of connect it up and have a look at all these pipes running through the place, and so we'll get back to this. But I had a friend who was a plumber, actually tapped into the pipes so I had free gas for about 4 or 5 years, which is what you did.
How did the backyard situation work with these communal houses?
There were no fences, and all the kids would just run in and out of everyone's house.
That can work brilliantly if you've got the right people in that space. It can be fantastic for kids having a gigantic shared background about it.
It was terrific. Yeah, it was fantastic because they built, they could just do whatever they like. These kids make cubby houses, and at the time there were good people. A lot of those squats were pretty terrible places, but I got lucky with that road.
So that's when you started thinking more about your sister, Anne Louise, and you thought you should go looking for her. How did you set out to look for her?
Well, my life circumstances changed because my son went back with his mother, and I suddenly had a little more time on my hand, and I started going to art school, and in that time I became aware of that I probably had to, I was going to move, actually. I was seriously thinking of moving to Victoria, and I wanted to track down my sister, and it was still a subject that my mother felt very uneasy about, but somehow I found that she was in Stockton Hospital, north of Newcastle, so I just decided to go up there one day. I got the train up there and got the ferry across to Stockton, and I found out the ward that she was in, and I went up there, and they just finished lunch, and the charge nurse at the time, I was very fortunate actually, because he
What's a charge nurse?
To his office.
Like the one in charge.
Don't be hard on your parents.
Of the shift,
about, seeing Anne Louise, she's very loved here, and she's got a good life, so don't judge them. This is what people did back in those days. It was very kind of him to say that, because that I was able to sort of let go of any ill feelings towards my parents
and just focus on her.
Yeah.
And what was she like when you saw her after all these years?
She was small. She was busy. She was talkative, but it was very hard to understand what she was saying. She spoke this kind of gibberish, really, which could have been because she hadn't. Well, could have been for a lot of reasons. I don't know, but
was she happy and loved?
She was, and the charge nurse says, look, take Annie out for a walk up and buy some lollies at the little cafe. She likes that, so we walked up to this cafe and everybody knew her, and we bought some lollies, and she clutched my arm, just clinging on my arm.
She was like a little kid then,
wasn't she? She was like a little kid. She would have been in her mid to late 20s by then, but she was just like a little kid, like a 4 or 5-year-old really. She was pulling towards the river, towards Newcastle, and she was clinging to me, and she was saying, so cold, and I sensed that she knew who I was, and that she believed that I'd come to take her, to rescue her, in a sense. And she was pulling me towards the gates at the hospital then, and I had this thought. I thought I could just walk out the gates, go down the hill, get on the ferry, and I could take her back to Sydney, and we could live in a little house in Newtown, and everything would be all right. I'd look after her. And I was seriously thinking that, you know, as we're getting towards the gate, and then I thought, no, that wouldn't work out. It'd just be more trauma. And I kind of steered her back. It was very difficult because I really believed that she was waiting for me, in a sense, to come and take her home.
Oh, was it hard to leave her that day?
It was extremely hard. It was extremely hard. And but I knew if I didn't, you know, I was just some guy living in a squat in Newtown, and you know, the police had to be involved, and it would have made things worse, you know, and it would have been an impossible situation.
She wouldn't have known anyone in the new place you were taking to her as well.
No, but she probably would have been happy sort of washing down tables and cleaning chairs, and because she did a lot of domestic things. So as it turned out, I did move to Melbourne shortly after that, and she actually ended up in a little house up in Port Stephens with other women around her same age. So she got out of that hospital situation in her later years.
So, as you said, you went to art school last after. Yes. Even knowing that there was such a thing as being an artist or an art school, what happened there? How did you get tuned into the idea that you might want to go to an art school?
Well, I was thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I had a friend who was a street artist, basically, and I thought, I could do watercolours and someone on the street or something. So that was my idea, and I went to the College of Adult Education to do a watercolour course, and they were all full up, so I did a life drawing class instead because there was a vacancy there, and the teacher encouraged me. She said, you ought to get a folio together and apply for art school. I didn't even know about art schools, and that's what I did.
And to get that training, to know after you've been trained exactly where to put that line that you want to make, that's a nice thing.
Well, you didn't get much training, I must admit.
Really?
You didn't get any training, to be exact, actually.
Well, it was just sitting there and do something. Pretty much. So then you went to the National Art School, which was then called East Sydney Tech in Sydney. You went back to Sydney. You would have had training there, though, surely?
No. That was East Sydney Tech. No, that was... But, you know, I don't want to... anywhere.
Right, so it was just fun. Here's a space where you can make it.
Here's a space, and today, you know, I brought in a couple of lads' heads, and that's what you're going to paint. Which was great. I was happy. But there was always drawing classes. We had 3 drawing classes a week. There was lots of live drawing, and every spare moment I'd be off doing live drawing groups in other part-time classes in the city, the old arts building in Pitt Street. So any gaps in my work I'd be filling it in with live drawing.
Podcast and broadcast. This is Conversations with Richard Fidler.
Today with Michael Kelly. Michael's an artist who spent most of his life in a state of flux, sometimes with a roof over his head, sometimes not. He's often lacked a studio to work in, so he's filled up schedule after schedule, beautiful schedules with ideas and dreams and images of people and places around him. Now, 65 of those schedules have been acquired by the State Library of New South Wales because, apart from their beauty and aesthetic appeal, they document a kind of social history of lost Australia. We're coming up with the story after the headlines on ABC Radio. It's 28 minutes to midday.
Good morning, I'm Alexander Lewis. US President Joe Biden has urged Americans to take a step back and
can you put that window up, please?
politics a day after the attempted assassination of his predecessor, Donald Trump. The former president was shot in the ear at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. The chair of a state parliamentary committee that investigated Sydney's Rozelle interchange says the project was designed to maximise profit at the expense of commuters. Greens MP Kay Fairman led the upper house inquiry into the interchange, which has caused
I spoke to her yesterday. I told you that.
So you want to come down?
And blizzard conditions are forecast.
Her license is suspended at the moment. She's got to go to the city and get it.
Why? She's been driving.
No, because she's got diabetes and she went to get her license renewed and she told them that and they said, well, we're going to suspend your license until you can get some form signed by the GP.
I have never seen anything like
Well, that's a bit silly, wasn't it, Mum?
Nobody knows the story like someone who was actually there. I heard commotion.
Every fibre in my body just went into goosebumps.
From the Port Arthur shooting to the Boxing Day tsunami to the Beatles tour of Australia.
Scream, scream.
A brand new series from the creators of You Can't Ask That.
Oh my God.
I was actually there.
Gives me goosebumps, hey?
Tuesday nights on ABC TV and stream all episodes free on ABC iView. Podcast and broadcast. This is Conversations with Richard Feidler. You can find more conversations anytime on the ABC Listen app. Or go to abc.net.au/conversations.
Today I'm with artist Michael Kelly, who's often lived on the margins of Australian life, selling the odd painting in between, filling up sketch after sketch with images of the people and places around him that are a kind of social history of a lost Australia. And now 65 of those sketches have been acquired by State Library of New South Wales, and he's having a small retrospective exhibition at Studio W in Wollongong in Sydney in August this year. We were talking before about your sister who was born with intellectual disabilities, and you tracked her down to a place in Stockton, in Newcastle. Afterwards she lived in somewhere on the coast, north coast of New South Wales. What became of your sister?
Well, I didn't know, because I moved to Melbourne in the late 80s, but during the 90s I would come up to Sydney each year at Christmas time. I'd spend Christmas with my mother and family members, and one Christmas, it was 1997, my brother had come down from the north coast. He lived up there somewhere. He was lived in shacks and boats and things like that, and he'd actually had this letter from New South Wales Health saying that our sister had passed away, and they didn't have my mother's address.
So it went to your brother?
So it went to my brother, yeah. They tracked my brother down and sent him this letter, and basically that Anne Louise had passed away back in earlier that year, and if we could get in touch with, there was a number there to ring. And
so who told your mum?
I did. I think there was the cause of death was basically a heart attack. So Peter said, my brother, he said, look, do you mind telling Mum? And I said, sure. So
what did your mum say when you told her?
Well, my mum kind of, I sensed that she already knew.
What do you mean?
She just said something like, yeah, I sort of felt something had happened like that, and that's about all she said, and that's about all my mother would say. But in saying that, I sensed that she'd already knew, because she'd always had this strong connection there. She never talked about Anne Louise, but I knew that she was always there somehow on her mind somewhere. You know, she was always in the background, and my mum had this very strong, intuitive side to her, and she had this connection with people who'd passed away. She'd always had that, and it was just, you know, I think she already knew about Anne Louise, and it was distressing to her. In a sense, I sensed that she was relieved doing it, because now she got affirmation that that's what had happened.
Yeah, it must have been such a burden on her mind for all her life, I suppose.
It was, and the guilt that she would have suffered because of it, and resentment towards her father for taking her away from, taking the mother away from what family she had up in Brisbane, and probably blaming him to a large degree for her disability.
You mentioned she had this kind of intuition and this way of seeing people from the past. Did that increase as she entered her final years?
Very much so, yes, because my mother developed kidney disease, and she started to have dialysis. By this time I'd moved back up to Sydney. She had home dialysis for a while, and then she had an infection. She had to go into hospital, and it nearly killed her. She was in ICU. I remember going out to visit her one night at the Nepean Hospital, where she was in ICU, and she said to me, Mum and Anne Louise came to visit me today. Just like that.
Her deceased mother and her deceased daughter.
Yeah, she said I was standing at the end of the bed.
And was she troubled or happy about that?
It's been so nice talking to you on the way up while you
Oh,
had your
what?
phone.
Oh no!
Awful.
No, you were like, oh, you know, and then I went to say something and you turned the radio up.
It's going to be okay.
So I just thought,
Oh,
well,
no, you were talking to me.
I was. And then you shut. So I thought, well, I'll just make myself scarce.
Always go to the extreme.
No, but well, I just picking up like on cues, which
you always misinterpret.
Why would you otherwise turn up the radio when I go to talk? You did. I swear to
And that
God.
photo would have been probably from the early 50s when my mother was in her late teens, I suppose. And I didn't know Cloudland, but I used to ask Mum about it.
What would you like to talk
She said,
about?
it was such a wonderful place.
I know you're
She used to go
sad.
there dancing, and with all the lights of Brisbane below.
It was the most beautiful ballroom in Australia ever by consensus, and it was torn down by property developers, and it's still missed, and people still talk about it in Brisbane today.
And Mum would say, you know, had a sprung floor. You know, the Americans when they were there and during the war.
Have you been to SeaWorld?
When they left, so they could dance across it. And she remembered the bands, the music, Billow Smith's band, and
It's probably a fair bit different now.
about it fondly. And when she passed away at a funeral, I
Just
thought,
don't go in the helicopter.
That's the woman
Why?
we want to remember. You know,
crashed.
this sparkling, effervescent, beautiful woman in those beautiful times. You know?
In that, you've written a
Kind
poem
of a bit of a
about
crazy
your mum that
move
you read
you
at
did
a
there,
young age.
Mr.
Did you read
Trump.
Yes, thank you.
When did it crash?
You're dancing now across the sprung floor.
Well, the helicopter, that's probably really expensive though.
The river snaking lazily below.
And the helicopter's probably really expensive.
Flicker through the
Yeah,
gums
two
of
helicopters
the
collided and everyone died.
On this hot summer night, the eyes of the supers follow your graceful
One was
form.
taking off as one was trying to land. They miscommunicated.
To the river, Billow
Straight into each
band,
other.
while lightning growled around outside, and the air electric from an approaching storm. Below, full moon perfume of frangipani wafts up from Wickham Terrace.
When was that? Like
And
recently?
we, down here, look up at the stars, the flickering lights of Cloudland.
SeaWorld parks in, you know, like then there was like, you know, the one in Dreamworld. That wasn't too good, was it? Yeah.
I think you can stay at SeaWorld.
Oh well. Not on my budget.
Online and on the ABC Listen app.
I'm glad you can, you know, find a few dollars to pay for drinks today.
I'm not a complete cunt. I'm not gesto, but after he goes back, I'll be close to it. So, you know. But that's alright.
Conversations.
I don't know, someone's playing shenanigans with my freaking PayPal
You've been able
again.
to support yourself over the years as an artist. What kind of odd jobs have you done over the years?
Well, for many years I taught. Actually, I fell into teaching by accident, in a sense.
How much is that planet for?
The what? 150. But I won't get that till it arrives at the San Diego because I'm just saying on. This is easier to do it from my phone because it's a different account.
College and
If it's shenanigans, I don't know whether maybe I'll just use your PayPal.
so part-time teacher, exhibiting and working as a taxi driver.
That would be quick
just
out.
to keep going.
And then you can decide how much you transfer to me. Give a little burst or side.
Difficult. I've still.
Sounds great. What a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
And I accepted that. That's the artist's life.
Maybe I'll do that. What's your, or do I have to put a log on though to do that? What's your password?
That's the original definition of a bogey.
I won't fuck with it. We'll go to your account. What I'll do is, and then I can just send it to you.
I didn't drink, I didn't party, you weren't taking opium knives, I wasn't doing any of that stuff.
You're not doing absinthe or laudanum or anything?
No, nothing like that. No. Strong cups of tea was about as far as it goes.
And a sketchbook.
And a sketchbook.
Oh, how do you get into your storage shed, by the way?
Room for anything else, you know.
Yeah, but what about the clothing?
What happens when you don't make up, when you're unable
My
to make
birthday
up?
I
plus
start to brood, I get anxious,
hash.
That's all?
become irritable. I don't
With
get
the
myself
year
in
or
that
just the...
situation. I've always got something. It's just a draw to me, and if it's
No, I think it's 2310.
That's it, because of the speed camera. And that's your navigation tells you. That's annoying, isn't it?
Especially in the period when I came back from Melbourne.
Oh shit, we're always
in the
here.
2000s, and I had a lot of uncertainty and upheaval in my life. I'd be drawing all the time because I couldn't paint and I couldn't work. So, and that's what I do when later on I was able to travel a little bit. I just keep that same work ethic happening in my sketchbooks, really.
Is it a compulsive thing? And I'm saying this because I remember the great American underground comic artist Robert Crumb put out a book once called Waiting for Food, and it was a book of sketches he made on napkins over 40 years or something while waiting for food. It's something that he can't stop doing. He can't stop doing. Are you like that?
Yes, I am, but I'm probably more self-conscious than someone like Robert Crumb because I antagonise over it, and then the tension gets so bad I just get to pull the sketchbook out and start sketching anyway.
Given that you were sort of in and out of accommodation at times and homeless at times, did that mean you were worried about those sketchbooks?
Seriously, do you know what you PayPal?
Well, I'd always have someone to store them. They'd be stored in garages and silly places. I left a lot of them in the garage in Melbourne.
Right, set it up. Well, I'm just sick of this shenanigans. Just shut it down.
Why have they shut it down again?
No, because I had someone buy like multiple items, right? And so then it goes through this whole new process. You know.
Because some sketchbooks. They were safe, and
eventually when I did get
public housing here in Sydney, I was able to go back to Melbourne, and the first thing I did was bring the sketchbooks back, and they were okay. But I worried about them. We had all this weather here, this
we have X-rays, somebody.
Humidity, and I started to find bits of mould.
I think maybe
largely when I approached the light at the instigation of my art dealer.
Where are you going?
I think you can find. I think you can find penguins.
You can find what?
Penguins.
Penguins. Penguins? We're here at the airport. There's penguins at the airport, is there? Well, we're at the airport. Oh, you think there's penguins in Queensland? No, there's no penguins in Queensland. There's penguins in Victoria.
Down the